Peace and love, peace and love. What's up, good people? It's your man, Nat Busy, back with another edition of the Guard Hour, live at the Guard Hour. It's been a minute, I know. Been trying to structure some things, get things right on some other ends, so I haven't been doing this as much as I would like to. Salute to Miss L on the check-in. You know how it all started. But I definitely have been away, like I said, doing some other things, and now I'm back, and what brings me back is unfortunately this unfortunate situation that we saw just happen to this young man, Tyre Nichols. I want to touch on some aspects of it that are definitely serious, but I don't think they're being talked about enough, especially in mainstream media. Because every time that this happens, and it's happened, we know way more than we can keep count on anybody's scoreboard. But with that happening, this police brutality, this taking of lives by officers against black people in particular, which spawned the whole hashtag Black Lives Matter, and you know the backlash that got. Everybody tends to just think that we're just so resilient that this has no direct effect on our psyches, on our mentalities, on our spirits, all of this good stuff. It just seems like that just gets glossed over in this media thing when it comes to black people. They talk about PTSD, but nobody talks about CTSD, which is continuous stress disorder. You know what I'm saying? So we go through continuous traumatic stress disorder. There's no breaks. So I want to speak to that. I got a young lady that's going to come on. She's a licensed therapist. Maybe she can help us make heads or tails of how we deal with what we keep seeing in these videos. They tell you don't watch the video, but if you don't watch the video, you know, it's like you're not really in tune with what's really happening. So it's just so crazy. We want to try to make some sense of it. We're going to do that tonight on the Guard Hour. If I could get Beloved to join me, I think we'll get the proceedings started this evening. Let's see what's going on here. That came through is coming through. We want to make this a community discussions. I will be checking out the peace and love.
I don't like when I have to do it from my phone. Oh, this is terrible. Okay. Can you hear me, Chucky?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome. It's been a minute. So just to catch people up to speed, can you let the people know who you are and what it is that you do?
My name is Cherie Dortch. I'm a psychotherapist. I have a private practice in New York. My specialty is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work in the police department for 22 years.
Wow.
From the time I was 23, 22 or 23 when I started working there. And I left because of kind of the things. I wasn't a police officer. I was a civilian. And I see a couple of people. Hi, Aaliyah. I see a couple of people that
Now, real quick, though, what's the difference in the police department when you say you wasn't an officer, you were a civilian? How is that designated in the police
because
department?
there's offices there. You know, I worked in the office there. I actually worked in the Records and License Bureau, and then I worked in domestic violence. Okay. I worked in both, and then while I worked there from the time I was 23. So when I was working there, I was going to school, and then I started working in a mental health clinic. Probably half of the time I was there. I was there 22 years. I worked in a mental health clinic for like 10 years. So I was doing both, and it wasn't I left the police department because it wasn't a good experience there.
All right, and I could only imagine what made it not a good experience for you. I don't know. That's why I say I can only imagine. But I would like to unpack that at some point.
Okay.
But with the current events that's going on right now, and where we find ourselves once again, another brother has become a hashtag. Another brother has become a stop police brutality catch line. And it boggles my mind. And I do consider myself of strong mind. You know, I try. It's like when I go see slave movies now, I think that some of them historically, especially when we got young people that don't know nothing and they don't really read books, sometimes you want to go out and at least introduce them that way to stories of Nat Turner or the one that Will Smith just did, Emancipation, or something like that. But I find myself having to tell my son, hey, yo, check this out. When you watch this, let's watch it from a historic perspective, and let's not try to get too emotionally engaged in what you see in these atrocities. Because to me, I feel like with our roots being so embedded in, you know, the slave, you know, us coming from slavery, I feel like that is in our DNA, as they say. And when you watch these things, it's sometimes a trigger.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
don't watch them.
licensed therapist. What is that any? Is there any type of truth to that?
Yeah,
Is there any type of connection?
absolutely. I personally don't watch slave movies. I don't. For one of the things I do notice, you know, younger children, younger kids have to know our history, but that's not the only part of our history. So that's what pisses me off about it. Is like that's not. I work in the school now, right? So, and I work with mostly Black and Latinx children. So the Latinx children, being that they don't know the history of this country, they immediately go to what they're being shown, and all they're ever being shown is slavery. So that's all they know us to be, a slave. They tease other kids and say they're picking cotton. You know, yeah. So they don't know the history. So I feel like when you continuously feed in the psyche with negative images of us, and we can do that from those movies all the way up to the music, you know, then it's feeding our consciousness, and we already feel. Sometimes we don't realize that we feel inferior.
Now,
You know?
when it comes to these movies, I definitely understand that, because I used to watch them. You know, I was a kid, came up in the 70s where we wanted the tail end of the civil rights movement. When Roots came out, it was must-see TV, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, there was only like 5 channels. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, there wasn't so many choices. They weren't, you know, they had just got through with the Black exploitation movement, which we were all pimps and hustlers, you know, all this crazy stuff. So now they put out Roots, and, you know, like I said, it was must-see TV. But even watching Roots, I'm sure that the white children that watch Roots, the Asian children, Latinx, that's a new term for me. We're gonna have to talk about that in a minute.
No,
but
don't ask me no questions about that.
Yeah, I just knew Latino, you know,
Latino with the Latinx.
Yeah, my man TMP was said, don't even call him Latino, Hispanic. He Puerto Rican. So there's a lot going on. That's my man.
Difference.
But even when they were watching that movie, I'm sure in their minds, it doesn't go to the place that I know it went to in my little mind.
So where did it go in your mind?
In my mind, these people look like me. This would have happened to me. So that's why, and I was jokingly saying this to somebody the other day. Like, I know a lot of people said they watched Roots back then, and when they went to school the next day, they got in fights with white kids. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
That's what they told me.
I'm going to tell you what it brought out of me.
But real quick, I went to school in Hempstead. So when I went to school the next day, it wasn't even no white kids to fight. So, you know,
there was a few kids and white kids when I went to school in Hempstead.
Not when I went. It was all black. It was black on black on black.
It was few, but not a lot. But there was a poem that I took to school that my Aaliyah, who I just said hello to, I hope she's still on here. I wrote a poem. It was a poetry festival, and I wrote a poem about slavery, and I still remember it to this day. And I don't even want to. I was in 5th grade, maybe 4th grade, and I don't even want to say the poem because it's really deep. You know, it's like wow. And
I think you got to say it now.
It was a poem for a poetry festival. It was a poetry festival. I think it was a poetry contest. And here I go. Many, many years ago, in a far-off native land, strangers came like invaders to earth. Their mission they had planned. Many men and women too died for their freedom with bravery, as if they knew when they saw these men, their lives were bound for slavery. That was Africa and Europe too, and all across the earth have been infected in many ways from slavery since its birth. Black man, brown man, white man, yellow. All of us have gotten our share of being abused and treated like dirt by the master who just doesn't care. But we must struggle hard and use our mind to be clever, because slavery is here and will never die. I believe we'll be slaves forever.
Hold up.
And that's a lie.
You're not saying 4th grade, right?
Yes, I was in 4th grade.
Yo, yo, word my mother. Yo,
I was in fourth
fourth
grade
grade,
singing that poem. Yes.
you was wilding.
Well,
But
my
that's heavy.
sister-in-law, yes, my sister-in-law helped me with that. I remembered it.
Yeah, she definitely got a dashiki on when y'all wrote that.
Definitely. And that's how I grew up. She my brother was 13 and 14 years older than me, so I grew up that way. They were both, my sister was Muslim, my brother was Muslim, and I grew up learning about. It's probably why I don't choose a religion, right now. The way I eat, I'm vegan. We were reading Message to Black Man and How to Eat to Live as little girls.
Yeah.
But it's probably why I grew up to be the way I am, and probably more. And this is my niece, who's my sister, my sister-in-law's daughter. She's not even as, she's grown to be, but she's not even as, I don't even want to call it militant, but I'm very assertive and I stand for what I believe in. So it was very difficult being in that way. It was difficult for me to work in the police department because I'm not going to follow.
No doubt. But and I'm glad you said the word militant and then you kind of drew it back a little bit, because you were about to just simply say that as a Black person, you are very proud of who you are, what you come from, what you represent. But you said militant to describe that first. You understand what I'm saying? And I
think so.
That's what you said.
When I think of militant, I think of somebody who is, everything is about Black oppression. Everything that they do is about being oppressed as a Black person. When I think of somebody as militant.
Now, the reason I mention that is because even for you to just dial it back and say, well, to be honest with you, I just love who I am and what I'm about.
Right.
In America, mainstream media would have us believe that that's militant, just to love yourself. We said Black Lives Matter, and they went bananas.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's because, when you don't come from where we come from, and we don't have the same experiences, and I'm constantly saying this. I just said this to this guy Najee the other day, and he's, we were going back and forth about perception. When you think about somebody who's non-Black, they didn't have the same kind of experiences, so they're gonna see it differently from how we see it. And I think we have to respect that on some level because of that. So if, white people are always talking about all lives matter, okay, well, they don't get the fact that, how Black people are being treated and that they're being killed every day. We're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're never saying that. We're saying that you need to understand that our lives matter. But when you seeing Black people through a lens of, I just had a client tell me about a bank that she works in, and that when the Black people come in, they automatically think they scamming, because it's in like an all-white neighborhood. So when you see the world through the lens of Black people are murderers, Black people, everything negative that you could think of about Black people, when you see the world through that lens, that's how you're going to respond to it. And that's what people have to understand.
It's unfortunate, though, when you say that, because you say, they don't understand what we go through. But I'm almost inclined to say you have to.
They know.
You feel me?
They know, but they don't know the experience. So it's the same thing. When I was in graduate school, I had a white professor tell me, please make sure you keep in contact with me because we need more Black therapists. She said, I can help somebody Black, but I don't understand the experience the same as someone Black would.
I agree. That's important. But, for a large consensus of us, we weren't given that opportunity even in our primary development. So you and I come from Hempstead, Long Island. You got the Tiger Blue on. I never went to Hempstead High.
Neither did I.
Yeah, but I went to the primary school, so I'm gonna wear this Tiger Blue. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to everybody in the stead. But
yeah.
I know growing up there in the 70s, you know what I'm saying? And I'm happy to be just turned 51 years old, Aquarius season all day. But as a 51-year-old child that came up in the 70s, when I went to school, like I said, all my peers in my classrooms were either Black or they were Latino.
Right.
Now, there were a good portion of my teachers that were white, and those were only times I really interacted with white people.
Really?
However, when I learned history and things of that nature, most of the history that was taught in the classroom centered around the white experience.
Right.
And now, and it's ironic that we have this conversation on February 1st. We get to have 28 days of what they call Black History. You know what I'm saying? And we're only going to talk about slavery. We're only going to talk about Martin Luther King. And we're going to talk about things of that nature. We're not going to talk about, we never talked about Malcolm X.
They don't,
you know what I'm saying?
Don't want us to know any of the things that we should know because they want to keep us feeling inferior.
Yeah, but this is, again, I'm saying it speaks to the psyche that we now live with and we raise our children with, and how the generations have come up with a psyche that does not value us even as us. And we know this because we see what's happening in the neighborhoods every day.
Right.
So, which leads us to what just happened, right? Did you watch the video? Because I know you say you try to avoid things of that nature.
I watched what I saw. I watched a little bit of it. I didn't really see anything other than them pulling him out of the car. And then they had him on. Then somebody tried to tase him and he ran. So I didn't really see them beating him up and stuff like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I watched the whole thing. And I say unfortunately for my own selfish personal reasons and what that's going to do to me personally in my mind. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people that say don't watch it. You know what I'm saying? And there's reasons I understand behind that. But at the same time, when you don't watch it and you don't see how brutal this is and you don't grasp how it's continuous, this ain't the first time we watched them beat somebody to this degree. No. It's not the second.
This is not new. This has been going on for decades.
Indeed. So that's why I want to speak to what I term CTSD, which is the continuous traumatic stress disorder. Because we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, but how do you have post something? Because the post means after. It's never been an after. It's always been continuous.
Right. I'm thinking there's a name for it, and I don't know why it's not coming to me right now, but it is definitely trauma, and it is racial trauma, a lot of racial trauma we experience. I don't think people realize it. And I don't think people are trying to, even our own people, even people who look like me, I don't think they're really trying to understand it.
I mean, it's unfortunate because when you put this up against some of the other atrocities that happened to other people, whether it was the indigenous people or the Jewish people or whomever, they don't forget. They never let anybody forget. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching a series that I've been binge watching. It's like The White Wire. It's called Yellowstone. You know what I'm saying? And on Yellowstone, them indigenous people are going hard for what they say was always their land. And the cowboys from Yellowstone are going hard for what they say is their land. You know what I'm saying? But here we are as Black people, and we go hard for real estate that we don't even have any ownership in.
Oh, God. Was that you I was just talking to about that?
I'm not so sure. I know we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, because I was talking about when I did work. When I worked in the police department, and somebody had bashed all the windows out of somebody's car because it was red. This was some years ago, and they was in there in wherever they wasn't supposed to be, where they lived or whatever. And I'm like, and I went asking them, like, do you own any property here? Do you live? Are you a citizen here? Like, how are you fighting over where somebody lives? You're not even a citizen in this country.
It's a sick situation, because and I just mentioned that because in the context of history, you know what I'm saying? These people never forget what's happened to them.
Right.
And all of them have problems. Trust me. When you watch Yellowstone, they got a lot of white on white crime.
I've heard about Yellowstone.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got a lot of Native American, indigenous people and indigenous people. People commit crime where they're at. And proximity has its place. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, us, the people that came here on the heel of these boats, you know what I'm saying? The people that came here and had to build the infrastructure, pick the cotton, that paid the bills, you know what I'm saying? When it was a textile era and before the Industrial Revolution even, we set all of this in place. And it's like there's a continuous campaign to make sure we never forget that, first and foremost.
Right.
So we get a bunch of movies about that. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think, but I think when somebody is continuously watching something like that, they're not telling you, they're not talking about people who invented things. They're not telling you about being kings and queens because they don't want you to know that that's what you are. They want you to stay inferior and feel inferior. They want you to stay just in your place.
Now, let me ask you a question, being that you say that, because a lot of us will say that. They don't want you to know that. But this is the question I want you to answer for people.
Okay.
Why don't they want us to know that?
Because they want us to stay right where we are. They want us to stay in our place,
Mm.
remain, feeling it like we're inferior, and a lot of us do, and we don't even realize it.
Because what do you think would happen if we did study that history? Like if everybody just stopped today with all the nonsense. And peace to everybody on the check-in. All my homies, I see you, Bird.
I see you too, Chris Webb.
Angie Liddell, happy belated. That's my Aquarian sister, author extraordinaire, and all of that good stuff. But when you say they don't want us to know who we are, they want us to stay in our place. So say if we stop right today, if all of the main radio stations from LA to New York stop playing anything other than uplifting music that taught Black people of their actual culture, that taught them their history as good, upstanding, righteous people, because we wasn't all kings and queens. You know what I'm saying?
That's but the thing about that is that's not our only history when they talk about slavery, and that's what I can't stand.
But I'm just saying, if we were to get our actual history,
I think it might make some difference, but I think we've been brainwashed way too much. That's not the only thing. I think that I think we would be a powerful people if we learned how to have some unity, if we could come together. But we can't do that because we've been brainwashed to be competitive all the time. It's this competition. It's like this idea and this mindset that there's not enough, and we have like crabs in a barrel, basically. It is what it is.
I mean, I've always said with the crabs in the barrel thing, it's crazy because I'm sure when the crab is in its natural habitat, it's not necessarily beefing with the other crab. They just out there coexisting.
Well, it's the whole idea of when crabs in the barrel, that when the one is in the bottom, they're trying to pull the other one. One is trying to get out, and they're pulling it back down.
Yeah, no doubt. But I've always said, who put the crabs in the barrel? Because that's the real culprit. It ain't the crab that's trying to pull another crab down. So
who do you think put the crabs in the barrel? Who do you feel like put the crabs in the barrel?
I feel like the powers that be have. I feel like whoever was the divine mastermind behind knowing that Black people are the most identifiable people by the color of their skin. Therefore, we're going to marginalize them. I think I lost you. But therefore, we're going to marginalize them at every corner. You feel me? And then by doing that, because they make it to where people don't do business with us, but we do business with everybody else.
Right. But do you feel like is them making it so people don't do business with us? I know that, I know there's some instances where they try to keep us from having certain things. Like I went to a Black beauty supply store, and the Koreans were keeping this Black woman from getting supplies.
For sure.
But do you also feel like we play a part in that?
I believe that I forget which one of the scholars said that we are the worst imitators of our oppressors.
Yes, and that goes right back. That makes me automatically think of the police department. But go ahead.
But when I think of Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, and the little girl who thought blue eyes would make her acceptable, would stop her from living under the conditions that she was really living in. And if you haven't read The Bluest Eye, and you don't know what we're talking about, get your literature up. You know what I'm saying? Go get that book, because it was a deep book. And you see they ain't made no movie about that one. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
They picked Beloved. They didn't make one about the bluest eye. Exactly. Because in the bluest eye, it speaks to the fact that there's any child. You look at any kid, and I see them all the time. You degrade them enough, and I'm talking about little kids, and you do this in a matter of 3 to 4 to 5 years. You degrade them enough, you neglect them enough, you abuse them enough, and by the time they're 6, 7, 8 years old, they'll tell anybody, "Oh no, I'm ugly. I'm not worth anything. I'm bad." You know? So if they've been doing that to us for generations and generations and generations, we totally get why we are at where we're at as a people, why we go at each other's throats. We understand that. But until we can understand each and every individual one of us that there's a bigger person behind this. There's somebody who's shaking the jar. There's somebody who put us in this barrel. You know, then maybe we could have the common ground and say, look, bro, okay, you just robbed me again. Like, you ain't got to keep robbing. You ain't got to keep killing my kids and my sisters and brothers. You ain't got to keep doing that. You know, it's getting old, and we just keep doing it. And I don't know. I'm like, that's why I said I gotta get somebody who could help me sort this out therapeutically, because this is out of control even for me at 51 years old. You know?
You heard? Yeah. I think one of the issues is some people have to, and I say we, I'm talking about Black people. We have to understand that there is a problem, and there's a lot of us that don't realize that there is a problem. So, and they just go on living their lives like in an unhealthy way. A lot of us don't. We just don't see like their behavior. Some of the behaviors that we have, it's normal. It's been normalized, you know. And I mean, I've had several conversations about, you know, Black people, because that, you know, I'm gonna tell y'all, that's all I see in therapy. I actually had somebody come into therapy today who was non-Black, and they and, you know, we doing virtual, so they come on the screen. I don't know by the name, so
they probably don't know about yours either.
No, they saw me because my picture is on the thing.
For sure.
So they come on, and I'm like, oh, I know she had to see it in my face. But I'm like, what is this person? Why did you choose me? You know, so. But I see a lot of Black people in therapy, and I think it's important that people start just trying to unpack their own stuff. Shit.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, speak freely,
yeah, just unpacking your own shit. It's like, you know, nobody's seeing you crazy. You have things that you probably need to heal, things that you need to process, and people just don't want to do it because they're looking at it as that's what white people do, or I'm not crazy, or that's what crazy people do. I must say that a lot of Black people are starting to get into therapy, but it's not enough of us. It's not enough Black therapists also.
Yeah, I mean, because you can't. You gotta. People say, "Well, you got to go to therapy." Well, there's got to be somebody that's a therapist for me to go to. You telling me to find a Black therapist? Where they at?
It's hard.
You know?
I mean,
when Warrior said we have a big garden, to keep it healthy, you have to get the weeds out.
Yes, that's right. I know who that is. Yes.
Yeah, I've been thinking about a Drop Squad. I don't know if people remember that movie Drop Squad back in the 90s, where they were going and kidnapping sellouts and brainwashing them to understand what the culture was like. We need to do this
I need to watch that. I like that.
I think it was a Spike Lee movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably.
But
because we gotta unlearn and relearn. That's what we have to do, because we've already been brainwashed.
But how do you know? It's hard to get the people to unlearn when the constant refrain that everybody using when it comes to us is that we think we know everything already.
You mean Black folks?
Black folks, young folks. You know what I'm saying? Old folks.
You never know. Look, you can't see it. Oh, yes, you can. I'm so used to being on Zoom. You see all these books I got? I just ordered another book.
No question.
This is what, you know, I'm constantly learning. And I'm 50-something years old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But it goes all the way to the other side of the room, my bookshelf.
No doubt.
I'm always learning. Like, you never know everything. You can never know everything. There's always something to learn.
I just wish we had a program, because I see it every day. I've worked in group homes. You know what I'm saying? I've been mentors to many. I come from the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
What does that mean?
Meaning when you was in a situation and you was like, oh, these people living pretty good, and you see the people that's living underneath them. Well, we were the people that was living underneath them and underneath them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there were some people that were doing good. There were some people that was doing all right. Getting by.
So you come from the bottom. You come from
poverty.
Okay.
Poor.
I'll go with that.
I'm talking about poor, not just financially, but poor in spirit, because of the financial situation was so dire. Okay. You know, when you go outside, the kids that's got messed up clothes is pecking at your clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those situations. So I know what creates the desire that says, I'm going to get it by any means necessary. If I got to take it from you, so be it. If your life has to come with that change, so be it.
I think that when you learn about who you are and you know who you are, then you don't have to do that. But I think, and that's where it all begins. I think, you know.
How do you get there because that's what they call woke, right?
Yeah,
It don't
I guess. I don't
nobody
know.
like
I don't know
waking
what they
up.
be talking about when they be talking about woke, because people be talking about woke, and I be like, you sleep. Um, yeah, I think that would be a part of being woke. You know, people have to learn about who they are, and they won't have to do that, and then their life will change. You know, I've had to do my own healing. I've had to do my own. I'm still on my own journey. You know, I think it's forever. It's until I die. But
For sure, for
um,
sure.
I think that people just want to take the shortcut. They don't. It's that, that's, all the stuff that I'm talking about. Is bullshit to them.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what I mean. Like when I come from the bottom of the bottom,
Hmm.
those are my neighbors. Those are my classmates. Those are my cousins. Some of them. Aunts, uncles, even. I come from some people that they don't ever want. I mean, I remember I've been having this conversation. Any of my friends will tell you, that I've been having this conversation forever. You know what I'm saying? Like this has never not been in my world because of my upbringing and my mom being Afrocentric and my uncles being connected to certain organizations within the struggle that where I just, instinctively drew to knowing who I am and wanting to read anything about knowing who I am.
Hmm.
I never liked American history because I knew the lies underneath it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
For every great white man they ever talked about, he had X amount of slaves. You know what I'm saying? That he didn't treat well. You know? So when I hear a lot of black patriotic people speak,
Mm.
I feel like, yo, my man, you're the ultimate brainwashed person because you don't
Yeah.
understand that this government that you praise never had you in mind. And that's the whole fight, is to get you out of the mind again. It's
Hmm.
I think it's become a very mental eugenics movement, because before it was actual eugenics. They're trying to sterilize people. They don't need you anymore. They wanted to send you back to Africa. They created Liberia for that. They
Right.
needed you out of here. And now
Right.
that the world is populating like it is, you're a liability. But I don't want to. I know we strayed away from what I
Yeah.
really wanted us to talk
Right.
about. When we talk about this latest police brutality situation, it's not 5 white cops beating
No.
a black man.
It's
These are
it's
five
five.
black.
One thing I have to say about the police department when it comes to black cops,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that comes to mind for me is identifying with the oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you I worked like I said, I worked there for 22 years. I wasn't a police officer, but I know the culture. In my practice, in my therapy practice, I work with a lot of police, law enforcement, corrections, because I chose that as my niche because it was something that I knew, and it's like it's a whole another culture, the police
Mm-hmm.
department. Um, but a lot of Cheryl said the worst. A lot of When we talk about black police officers, I always felt like especially coming into a black community, in the community that I worked in, it was a community that I grew up in. So you would think that they would come in and try to make some kind of change, in the community, or come and be supportive in the community. But a lot of times you have police officers who come in and they're looking down on the people there. They're not understanding the behaviors because they don't understand their own history. And I think that they identify with the people. Well, when we think about the police department, period, we think about the history of it, and we think about it's just another system, right? So you're going to come into that police department, and you make friends with the other police officers. And I have experience where when I first went into the police department, there was not a lot of black people there, not a lot of black. This specific police department I worked in, and there was I want to say 5 to 10 cops that were of color. And when they felt discriminated against a lot of times, and when they tried to come together, they couldn't even come together because it was always a mold. There was always somebody there going back and telling them what was being talked about. But well, I mean, you and I have had these conversations about how people follow, and I've learned, and still am learning, that most people follow. Most people don't want to be ostracized. Most people don't. They want to belong. They don't. And I learned that there because I was ostracized, but I was good with it. You know,
Yeah,
I feel like you got to stand for something, and
yeah, it's unfortunate.
and that's kind of how it is there. So then, as the years went on, started coming more black police officers started coming, and actually it actually changed. It changed. The police department changed because where it was the few black people who were there who kind of stuck together.
Hmm.
Now it was like we were separate, and it was always some drama. You know, so it's this needing to belong thing. You know, they want to belong. They don't want to be ostracized. And then you got to think about these are people who you going out on police calls with, you going out in the street with, and they might be the ones who have to save your life.
Hmm. So it's like a gang.
Not like a gang. It's not
It's the
like a
gang, the
gang.
biggest gang in the world.
It
You know,
is.
everybody know that.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the layman. You know what I
Right. It
mean?
is. It's not
If you
so
want to make
so.
it, because what I saw on that tape, that was the
Mhm.
last time I saw something like that in my real life. I ain't gonna never say I never seen somebody get beat like that. That was
Mhm.
horrible. I've seen people get beat in real life, but it was gang stuff. It was street stuff. It was somebody who already had no regard
But
for.
it's funny to me how they tried to label it as that, as as the but they don't label it as that when it's white cops.
Mm,
You know, I saw it somewhere how they were saying it. They turned out to be they were supposed to become there was some kind of special unit or something from what I understand.
yeah, yeah,
And
the Scorpion unit.
right, but and then somebody called it a gang, but they don't say that when it's the white cops. So it's you know it's a racist system regardless of who's working there.
Yeah, I mean, I just it's unfortunate because when I looked at the brothers' pictures who did it,
Yeah.
and I dare to call them brothers because everybody know skin folk ain't always your kin folk. I really don't even know if it was that with these brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I wanted to discuss the more psychological aspect of what was going on there, because there's a part of me that wants
Hmm.
to believe that them brothers didn't beat this man like that specifically because they were cops and cops hate black people.
No.
I want to think that they did it because they're black people and they also have total disregard for black people, because I
Oh
would
yeah.
venture to think they wouldn't have did that to a white man of the same
Because they
size,
would
stature.
probably been afraid to do it to somebody white.
Exactly.
Um,
So I'm not going to just make it a racial thing because these cops are also black. So,
right,
but black people have adopted the same disregard for black people as any other race of people.
right. I'm gonna share this. I took a cultural bias. As much as I love my people, I took a cultural bias test, and I'm biased against black people. But I'm
What
probably
made
bi.
what was it that led them to come to that conclusion
Well, it's
in
a
the
test.
test?
It just you just take a test, and it just tells you that. But I can see that because I care more about my own people, and then there's certain people that have certain kind of behaviors that I'm just like I can't. So
So it said you were biased against black people.
yes,
Whoa,
I'm black.
whoa.
But I think I feel like it's because there's certain behaviors that we have, and it's just like it gets to a point where it's like, okay, like, come on, like, do we have to do this? Do we have to be this way forever? Because this is what people expect of us. So, things like that. I get angry about it.
Yeah, I do, but I don't necessarily get angry at us because it's almost like blaming the victim for what they were victimized for, who victimized them.
I agree.
I do
I agree.
understand and I've seen this progressively happen over the course of a half a century, and with
Mm-hmm.
my own eyes. You know what I'm saying? I remember growing up with, I talked to my son who's a millennial or a generation, he's a young boy, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
I think he's
He's 20,
Generation
I'm
X.
50.
Yeah.
And I know when we watch stuff like Archie Bunker
Oh
or
yeah.
the Jeffersons or Good Times, and my son is seeing this from a different lens. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
Dad, they would actually let this come on TV. I mean, my favorite show, I don't know what kids' favorite show on TV is today, but
Mm-hmm.
my favorite show on TV in the 70s was what? Ain't We Lucky We Got Her? Good Time. They never
That
had
is
a
the
good time.
worst.
They
That's the
never
worst show
had
to
a good
watch.
time.
No, they didn't. What I wanted to say too, as far as the bias, is that I've always worked in a black community. So I didn't always have the best experiences. Even working in the police department, it seemed as if when all the black people started coming, that there was always an issue. And then I'm surrounded. You know, I've always been around black people, so of course some of the stuff that I see, I'm just like, I can't stand that. Why do y'all do that? You know, the gossiping, the crabs in the barrel, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like we need to have more unity, and we can't. So I do get very frustrated. Just like, I'm getting ready to retire now from my job, and I was saying, I keep saying I'm so happy that I can pick and choose who I want to be around. It's not, and I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be around black people. I'm just going to be able to pick and choose the black people I want to be around.
But even when you say that, though, it always leads me back to the psychological aspect of it, because this is a mental health issue in black people.
It is.
You feel me? So to just act like we don't know no better, you're right. We don't know no better, some of us. Some of us have been conditioned from the cradle.
Oh, definitely conditioned.
To not give a F. You know what I'm saying? We don't give a F about nothing. That's like a superpower when you come from that part of the diaspora, as they would say. You know, me telling you I come from the bottom of the bottom gives me a special license that I can use whenever I get too frustrated to say, man, you know what? Fuck all this. I'll knock all this shit. I don't care. Man, what up?
Well, you know it will make sense that you would be angry. That would make sense. But
indeed. But I'm somebody who's read probably half as many books as you got on that shelf right there. You know what I'm saying? I'm somebody who, when I was very early in life, my mother was also Afrocentric enough to teach me who I am and what I was really about. You feel me? I know that I am one of a few that were indoctrinated that way, because the dude that lived across the hall from me, his mom's wasn't even there. So,
wow.
You feel me? So he didn't get none of this. He was stealing from a young age. He started hustling at a young age. He had to get it out. He lived it at a young age. You feel me?
One of my friends says this a lot. He goes, he says, we are a sick people.
No, without.
He goes, we are a sick people. We are sick people. And I mean, but we can't accept that there is, because of what we've had to endure. Of course we are.
Yeah, but when you start talking about we, nobody wants to take accountability and include themselves in the we. They say, yeah, we, but not me.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what my issue is. It's like, and then we condone nonsense.
Yeah, we have to stop it, but it starts somewhere, and a rule without a relationship is always going to lead to the same rebellion that we see every day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But again, all of these conditions combined, to me, is what leads these 5 black cops. And we know it was more than that now. You know what I'm saying? We know there was a white cop who initially snatched him out the car and tried to tase him.
Right.
And then just put the narrative out there to the black cops. I hope they stomp his ass. That's what he said. I hope they stomp your ass. And they just,
why would they do that? And then I have a thing with violence too. When I worked in the police department, I've known of a black cop being with the white cop, stomping out a black person and calling him nigga in front of the white cops.
Yo, listen, man, I'm gonna keep it so 100 with you.
Yeah.
And this hurts my feelings, man, because these were some dudes. I don't even care. I don't even want to put a clarifier on it, because it's true. I worked in a group home.
Yeah.
Where they had kids as young as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Little kids. I mean, these kids are off the hook, though. These are kids with diagnosable issues. You know what I'm saying? You read some of these kids' files and know what they've been through and what this, that, and the third. You'd be like, wow. So some of these kids were very rough. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell these type of kids no. You can't necessarily just redirect them sometimes with words. So at this particular place I worked, you would have to physically restrain these kids until they calm down. You know what I'm saying? And there's a way that you restrain kids, right? So when I got there, it was kind of traumatic for me. Even my man on the check-in, he started working there. He couldn't even stay because these kids are sometimes off the chain.
Right.
But unfortunately, there was a group of colleagues that would gear up for their shift and stretching and ready to really put in work on these kids to me, to where it passed the point of
Are you
what
serious?
was necessary. Like, you're getting some type of pleasure out of this. This is becoming a little sadomasochist type, way you looking at your job. I watched a grown man one time put a 15-year-old boy. I didn't watch him. I wasn't there. I came after. I was the third shift supervisor. So on the second shift, this kid put a kid in what we call a dope fiend. You know what I'm saying? Choked them out. And when I came in, before I could take over the shift, I got to check every kid that's there, make sure everything's cool before I say, okay, I'm going to take the shift. And when I got to this kid's room, and this was a kid that was known for, wrecking shop. He was a big boy, and he was 15, but he was big, and he would wreck shop. He would terrify the staff, the other kids, everything. But when I checked his room on this particular day, his eyes is bloodshot red. I mean,
Oh
like,
my God.
fire red, like bloodshot. Like, the vessels are broken. And I said, yo, what happened to you? He ain't say nothing. So I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I checked the other room. So I go back into the meeting with the staff and the off-going shift. And when the other guy came in, I said, yo, so give me a rundown. He said, oh, yeah, and then with this particular kid, I whooped his ass. Yes, I did. I said, what you mean you whooped his ass? He said, yo, I told him to do this. He didn't want to do it. So I had to put hands on him. He tried to, get back with me, and I choked him out. I said, you what? you feel me? Immediately, I'm on the phone. Yo, there's a kid here. Because what people didn't understand, y'all get caught up in this catch and wreck situation. These are human beings that belong to some other human beings. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I
You're
get
going to
it.
have to explain this to somebody. You can't just come on your job and think that you have the ultimate authority to do your job by any means necessary, even if it means killing a kid just because he refused the directive. There's policies in place, especially when we see that the kid got documented issues. There's a way we address this. That's why they hired us, because we could stay above the fray. And that's what you would want to think about police officers and anybody else that's in that authoritative position. They give you that job because mentally you can stay above the fray. You're not going to get so caught up emotionally. You feel me? But that's actually what happened. And I see, and that's what triggered me with this when I thought about it, because people are saying, well, this is indicative of just how police are. This is indicative of how anybody in authority can be when absolute power starts to corrupt. Is going to corrupt.
Well,
Absolutely.
so that's a lot of what happens. It's they abuse their power. I'm gonna share what my experience. Well, that when I was there, what made me leave? There was a girl. She became my
Peace and
okay.
love.
Bye, Chris. Um, there was a woman. She was a regular police officer. She came to work there. I was already there, and she was married to somebody who I grew up with from Hempstead. She got there. She started messing around with a lieutenant, and whatever happened between her and the guy who I grew up with, they weren't together. They got divorced or whatever. So we're in Long Island. He's in the city. So the Long Island pays more than the city. So he came out to Long Island to work, and plus it was where he grew up. She was already there. So she went through this whole big thing trying to keep him from coming, saying that he was abusive and everything to her, and he was beating her up and blah blah blah. And
Was that true?
No, I worked in domestic violence. So my supervisor, who was a male, I always had men supervisors. I was like, I told him, I said, I've known this man all my life since I was in third grade. I've never known him to be, that way. I don't, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. But long story short, she didn't keep him from coming. He came there. They're divorced now. Again, I knew this kid. Our mothers were friends. Okay, so I introduced him to one of my other friends. She was interested in him. She didn't work there. She worked outside, and they ended up getting married. My friend. I don't know that this girl who now becomes my supervisor, has a problem with me because I introduced them. I don't even know, because you
introduced her ex-husband.
Yeah. I'm like,
she didn't want no more. She didn't even want him working in the town. She was done with him completely.
Yes. She swears that that's not why, but when I tell you the story, so they get married. Of course, it's people. He invites people from the job to the wedding, and they have a big thank you to me on the program and everything for bringing them together. So she knows that I introduced them or whatever. So I didn't want her.
He went to the wedding?
Who, the wife, the ex-wife?
Yeah.
No, she didn't go to the wedding. They had beef like for years. Like it was crazy. But I didn't get involved in that because it wasn't my beef. It was, either it didn't have anything to do with me. So when she became my supervisor, which I didn't want her to, I never worked for a woman while I was there, and it's different working for a woman than working for a man, especially a black woman, and you're black. But she wanted this whole. She wanted to be my best friend. She like wanted us to go out, and I choose my friends. I don't choose my supervisors. I don't want to do that. So
That's heavy.
so the lieutenant she had dated was telling her everything to do. I had a refrigerator. I had a small refrigerator in the office, and she had all. I couldn't even get my stuff in it because she had what's that saying? Oh, I couldn't get my stuff in the refrigerator because she had all her stuff in it. And one day I came to work and she had taken all her stuff out. So then she tells me, and then I was like, why is she taking all her stuff out? Okay, whatever. She comes to me, she says, take your stuff out. I mean, that refrigerator got to come out of here. I'm writing you up. Just out of clear blue. My friend was a probation officer. She called me. She was like, she needed a copy of a case report. The one that was married to her husband, and I'm on the phone with her, and I said, okay, I'll get it for you because that's something else I did. It was like miscellaneous stuff. So she leaves out of the office because she hears me talking to her, and then she comes back in the office. I had called her back to say that I had sent it over. So she comes in and she says, you've been on the phone for 30 minutes. Get off the phone. This is how she was talking to me. And I was like, let me call you. Let me call you back. At first, I was not. And I'm going to share with everybody, this is when I was learning how to not react. I was learning because, any other time I would be going like, bitch, who you talking to? So it was a lot of that. She ended up writing me up like 5 times. She was looking for stuff every day. If I came in 1 minute, and I swear to you, this is not even no exaggeration. If I came in 1 minute late, she would be like, you're late. I'm writing you up. She had other cops coming in there co-signing everything she was saying and doing, to the point where a police officer came in and he said, I'm looking for a special order. Now, special order was something that was typed up. It was an order like to say, let's say somebody's on vacation, this one and that one's on vacation, and they filed it away in the drawer. So she didn't want me to teach her anything in the office. She just refused. So I said, so the police officer said, I'm looking for a special order. She said, oh, it's behind the police desk. You got to go behind the other desk. I said, we have a copy in here too. She immediately goes, he's talking to me. He ain't talking to you while you all chiming in. Chucky, I lost it. I said, you know what? I'm fucking sick of you. And I slammed my hand on her desk. I said, I'm sick of you and all these women in here. I purposely said women because I was very mindful of what I was saying because I make sure I wasn't saying bitch. I wasn't calling her no name. She went live and said I called her bitch and he co-signed it. Because I was cool with him, I called him up and I said, you told him that I called her a bitch? And he was crying, no lie. I wrote this in my book, the book that I wrote. Where's my book so I can advertise it? I wrote this in my book. And I said, he was like, Cherie, when I heard his voice, I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Because I knew in my mind, I was like, I know what the truth is. And she know what the truth is. So when it was almost time for me to leave, I had to go look in my, look at my personnel file after so many things that happened. She wrote me up 5 times. I had never been written up. But she was upset because I wasn't getting upset about it. When the sergeant would come and give me the write-up, and I'll be like, thank you, and take it. And then she was also getting upset because they weren't doing anything. She wanted me to be suspended. But they were thinking before they did, because one thing about me is I'm not stupid. I got my own attorney. And so when I was able to look at my personnel file, there was letters from all of these cops that had just there was like a whole class who had just came in, and they wrote all these letters against me saying things that I said to her, and it was all lies. I was like, these cops, I don't even know who this is. say it would say Chucky Booker. I was like, who the hell is Chucky Booker? I was like, I don't even know who this cop is.
Right.
So they stick together and they're going to lie for each other.
Wow. That's heavy. And that's for somebody that worked there. So
That was
imagine
right.
somebody.
I tell everybody, and I said, I worked there. So, imagine what they did, what they'll do to somebody in the street. The lies they told. I didn't even entertain any of that. But when I left, I went and thanked all of them. I gave my old supervisor a card, a thank you card.
The lady?
Gave her a thank you card.
Wow.
Because I said I probably would still be sitting here. Because by then I started my private practice. I probably would still be sitting here because I was comfortable because I had been there for so long. But it was I always say that was the universe pushing me out, saying you gotta go. It's time for you to go. It was time for me to go.
Yeah. But man, that's heavy. I'm sorry to hear you had to go through that. But they said I was just thinking about something. They said what kills you, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. And that's true in a lot of cases. But also when it comes to Black people, I feel like what doesn't kill us just lasts longer. Because we've been dealing with suffering for a long time. Big shout out to my man King Dave.
But you know what? We're suffering at the hands of each other. Like that.
Again, that goes back to being the worst imitators of your oppressor and the proximity.
And that's the whole thing. And the whole thing when I talk about identifying with them as well. When I think about working in that police department, I think about how people who look like me wanted to be so accepted by them. They want to be accepted. They want to be a part.
But again, look at all of the mediums that they use to advertise Black people killing Black people. They got whole TV stations for it now. You ever watch a movie on Tubi?
What movie's on? I wouldn't watch anything like that anyway. There's an
app called Tubi. It's so funny that
Tubi is, but
they show these because somebody just posted a meme and said, "Yo, why I'm watching this movie on Tubi and just saw myself pumping gas?" Because the movies be that raw. You know what I'm saying? But they have whole genres. Companies have been built off people killing Black people. Black on Black on Black on
Black. So
you know
what we got to talk about too? Why do you think that is?
I mean, we spoke about it. If they don't know us, you feel me? If they don't know that, if we don't know that this is even a possibility, you know what I'm saying? We watch movies where they speak to that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You'll watch these fantasy movies like Avatar. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You'll watch movies that speak to that, even in some of the Marvel Universe movies.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand that Stan Lee, when he created those Marvel characters, he had the main two people in mind of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King fighting for the so-called mutants, which would be us, because the world has ostracized us.
Right.
You feel me? So when you ostracize people, the first way, like somebody said when I was doing your event the other day, and the brother was saying how we were separate, when we was talking about male and female dynamics and relationships and all of that, and the brother was saying how we're so separate and the Black man don't fight for the Black woman, and we said, well, it goes way back to where they took fathers out of the home, split them in half, hung them on trees. What you think that mother told her son? Don't talk back. You do what he says.
Right.
Don't you ever. And now you get Green Mile. You ever saw that movie, The Green Mile?
Yeah, I saw that. I hate that movie. I like it, but it makes me sad.
Yeah, but this is the way a lot of young Black men, you look at Herschel Walker.
Listen, when I look at, I have a cousin. I was in Alabama some years ago.
I grew up there. Big shout to everybody in Troy.
And my cousin, who has a pretty good job there, she had her BMW truck, and we were out doing something. We went to Gulf Shores, that's right. And she was like, she wanted to get the Porsche truck. I said, okay, we'll get it. Now she lives in a beautiful home there, and so she was like, no, because she don't want the people at her job. She works with white people. Because you got a Porsche truck? She don't want them to see her in it. Because it's like this, even the home she lives in, beautiful home, she don't want them to see her house. Because, I guess to her, she's not supposed to have those nice things. And then white folks are going to question it.
I mean, but nowadays, as you were saying, like you said, That's in Alabama, which is the root of the racism to a certain
Yes,
extent.
yes.
And I come from not far. I'm from Hempstead, Long Island, New York. But when I was 11 years old, I moved to Troy, Alabama, and this was '83. So things weren't far removed. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Well,
And
this
it
was
was a crazy.
this was in 2000 something that I was there.
Yeah, conditioning though. It's conditioning,
Yes, but it
because
just
we've been conditioned from that root of white people might not like you having that, to where black people definitely ain't gonna like you having it up here.
and you know, let me be thankful. Thank you, mommy. Let me be thankful for my mother, because even when I worked in the police department, I never forget. I got a I don't know. I always get new cars. I think I had my Audi then, and somebody said to me, "You know, they're gonna hate when because you got your car." It never even clicked in my head that somebody was gonna be concerned about what kind of car I had. That never, I wasn't raised that way, and my mother probably
Yeah.
raised me that way on purpose.
But to me, it's not even being raised that way. It's because there's a lot of ways we're not raised. But the unfortunate thing is sometimes is that we're not even taught to understand that some people aren't raised like you. Like with my son,
right?
he never lived in the hood. He never had to go through too much hard living financially in his life. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't raised, I raised him very Afrocentric as well, and letting him know that black people are brothers and sisters and we need to stick together. I raised him as a humanitarian, even when it comes to people. You don't just start stuff with people just because.
Right.
You have civility, things of that nature. But if I'm teaching my son all of that in my house, I also have to teach him to beware of the people who aren't being taught that.
So
in their house.
my niece Leah, she was on here, but me and her talk about this all the time. Like we didn't, it was more of what we experienced and what we witnessed. It was like we didn't, our parents weren't worrying about what the neighbors had or what they didn't have, So we weren't taught that, oh, they might hate on you. We just weren't. I mean. And we talk about that all the time. That wasn't like a concern. So it's never been like a concern of mine. So growing up, and even up until now, that bothers me. It's like, when I have somebody, or when they, and that they, I don't like to say jealous or hate, but if that they feel some kind of way, because it's really about them, when they feel some kind of way because you succeeded in some area of your life, or, but we just weren't exposed to it at all.
It's sad indeed, man. And the envy has definitely been a big culprit of killing our community. I want to say rest in peace to that man, Tyree Nichols, man. I'm sorry you lost your life in that manner. That's despicable. I also want to say rest in peace to the young sister here in Baltimore who was killed while she was sitting in the car with her kids waiting for her carry-out order. And the young brother started shooting at the other brothers across the street, caught her and her kids in the crossfire. She died. A 2-year-old got shot in the face. A 6-year-old got injured. A 6-year-old was injured in a car crash as she tried to drive away. And I definitely want to say rest in peace to the brother out here in Baltimore who was killed in the Family Dollar as he went in there out, to buy something, got in an argument with the young brothers in the front of the spot, and one of them shot him.
Okay.
So
Chucky, I'm trying to understand. Maybe this could be another conversation, or maybe somebody could come on and explain to me why is it that I don't understand the shootings. I don't understand because you have a problem with somebody, you have to shoot them. I don't understand that you have.
I'll tell you this.
What we call in the psychotherapy world is murderous rage.
Let me tell you, when I was 19 years old, right, one of my favorite songs I listened to was Sounds of Blackness, The Optimist.
I love that song.
It was on
my theme song.
The radio. It's ironic that I'm speaking on it because they just put out a new House Party movie. And I bet you there ain't a song in that movie that's like that song that came from the soundtrack of House Party 2. When Kid went to college, he was about to get kicked out of college. He started playing As Long As You Keep. And that used to be a song that we looked up to. Forever My Lady was out at that time. Let's Chill was out at that time. Boys the Men. They had the song You Sing at All the Funerals. I don't want to even talk about it because it made me emotional. It's so hard to The Body Yesterday. All of that was on the radio when I was a kid. You feel me? You know what's on the radio now?
No, because I don't really listen to
Gun music.
it.
Every song is about guns. You're going to shoot somebody by the end of the verse. You have to. It's mandatory in the story. You're not getting the big deal from Empire if you ain't talking like this.
And they don't realize. I think I posted a video of a white guy who worked at some record label, and he was talking about it. He was talking about how they, they're feeding you this nonsense purposely.
So when you ask where all these shootings coming from, their favorite rapper is telling them that's what they have to do. To be real, they shoot each other because that's what they believe they're supposed to do. He's right. They tell them you ain't real if you ain't do that. If this nigga, look, this is what the translation is. If this nigga say something that you don't like, shoot him. Shoot him. If this nigga...
So shoot him and then you going to jail. So I'm
so what? Do that big. Oh. You can do that time. You can do that standing on your head. What? You gonna go to jail. You gonna live good in jail, son. You gonna have everything in jail. You gonna have a cell phone. You gonna dress fly. Niggas gonna make sure you get food. You gonna get conjugals. What you wanna be out here for anyway? Fresh out. Ain't nothing to go back.
They don't want to be free. And then they not free when they here either. So, oh my God, this is so sad.
This is heavy. It's layers to this.
It
you
is.
know, like Meek said, there's levels to this. It's layers to this.
Definitely. I mean, it's layers to us, the people, but it's just layers to this whole.
But it's frustrating to me when I know this. Too. And me trying to relate this to my peers. I'm talking about 50-year-olds.
No, I know.
They'll say, it ain't the music. What? Like I said, they ain't going around doing drive-bys to the Mighty Clouds of Joy. You feel me? Like that. They're not doing this to Kirk Franklin. I mean, you might get busy with Kirk Franklin.
You're right, girl. He said, and they're not getting nothing. You know, that was one of the things of how I was able to keep my son. Well, I think my son is a certain kind of kid anyway. He never was interested in being in a gang because his father was in the street, and so his father would tell him like, you're gonna catch somebody else's beef for what, and you're not getting nothing. What you get? They ain't making no real money.
Yeah,
so that was one of the.
What
things.
if his father was in the gang and the only way he was going to impress his father was following the footsteps?
That would be different.
There's a lot of that going
on. He got me as a mother. Fuck that.
But there's a lot of that going on. You had your baby at 16 when you was the height of your bullshit in 1992. Now your baby's 16. It's 16 years later. You're 34. You're 30. 32, right? You still out here slinging and banging. When you see your kid, you saying that's my little nigga. You been calling him that.
That's the mentality. That's the mentality that makes me biased.
It can make you biased, but it not only makes you biased, it makes the rest of the society biased. And now we're in this bubble. And even with you having the bias against your own, they're looking at you as one of the same.
Gerald said he's lucky. I guess he talked about my son.
Yeah. He's very lucky because a lot of us didn't get a chance.
Well, a lot of people say that, and there's people, they wanted him to speak. There was ex-gang members that wanted him to speak, and then they wanted me to speak to question, for me to talk about how I kept him out of a gang. I wasn't even thinking about him being in no gang.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I stayed out of a gang is because, my mom introducing me to being Afrocentric, to knowing that I'm a black man and I love my people.
Right.
If I never thought that, even at the height of my bullshit, because I wasn't always, in tune. There's some black people that I caused some harm to, because when you grow up getting bullied, sometimes you become the bully. Or
I get that.
Or you bully them bullies.
Right.
And it still becomes a black on black situation. It's just that at 50 years old, I feel like it's my duty as an elder statesman to speak truth to the to the perceived power. You know what I'm saying? For every gangster rapper that we got what? One Chuck D. You know what I'm saying?
And Chuck D not even Chuck. He not even.
Well, he's definitely not what they would consider to be relevant, but he was very relevant when I was their age. If it wasn't, he was relevant. Rakim was relevant. Kane was relevant.
Rakim, they still are in my mind.
Yeah, but not to these kids. KRS-One was relevant. I'm talking about when I'm 15, 16, 17, at the height of what would make me go left, they always brought me right. You feel me?
So do you think that at some point it's going to change? Like,
Absolutely.
I think it's gonna get worse.
It's going to get worse before it get better. But can it get any worse than it already is? So maybe we're at the about to get better stage, because
Well,
this
let's
is terrible.
hopefully. Yeah, it is
This is
terrible.
terrible.
I mean, I think, I think it needs to change because I just think it's ignorant as hell, some of the stuff.
Yeah, but ignorance is the king right now. You know what I'm saying? What they say in the
Everybody
land of
says
the
that.
blind, the one-eyed man is king. So when you got all of the blind leading the blind and everybody just chasing the
Yeah,
bag
but
at all
that's what
costs.
it is. That's what it is the blind leading the blind. Definitely the blind leading the blind.
I mean, when you ever thought you would see a day, and I don't have no disrespect for anybody. I love everybody because I look at everything psychologically. But I never thought I would see the day when a black person would go to a doctor to get something added surgically to their body. I never thought I would see that.
Yeah, me either.
And now we're here.
But I think there's a little balance in that because I think there's some women embracing their bodies. I'm definitely embracing their hair like me.
That's not the order of the day. That's not what's on TV. That's not what's on the news cycle. That's not.
But now, but you still see a lot of women with natural hair now. I see more women with natural hair than.
But
than
I don't see as many young girls trying to have natural hair as I see the ones.
Maybe I don't pay attention.
Well, you see them everywhere. They're on the bus. They're in the office buildings. They're at
wigs.
I mean, just the young girls and their fascination with something other than what they were born with, because they've been taught that you got to have a unit. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a what do they call those? And there's no disrespect, whatever it takes. I mean, I'm not here to shame anybody to say what you should or shouldn't be doing. Some women, there's a lot of them that look beautiful with that. I ain't going to say it's not doing what you want it to do. You know what I'm saying? And I know there's a lot of men that lust for that. And I guess that's
the lust for what? For what? The butts and stuff?
I guess whatever the fascination, whether it's the hair, the nails,
because I hear the men say that they don't like. I hear a lot of men say they don't want that. Nothing. We don't like that. Yeah,
but there's a lot that do, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Because
when we having this whole conversation about relationships, this is what men are saying. They're like, we don't care nothing about the hair and the nails and the butt.
Yeah, that's a cross section of men because
I think they like nice bodies, but.
And men of a certain age probably don't, but these young boys,
Well, I told you I was in the barbershop the other day talking to the guy from 27 to 47, and that's what they were talking about.
Still an OG. You 27 in the hood nowadays, you an OG.
Well,
a 21, 22-year-old young man who's going to tell a 27-year-old, you old, you don't know what's popping. You an old head. We've been calling people old since they was that age. You know what I'm saying? Well. What did LL told MC Hammer, my old gym teacher, ain't supposed to rap? Hammer wasn't 30 when LL said that. And LL wasn't.
Somebody just asked LL about him being old.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was an old video that he had put out once he had gotten older. But he was clowning Ice-T and Mo D and all of them for being old.
Well, some people better hope especially these 21-year-olds, they better hope they get old. They better pray they get old.
There was a lot of us that would have hoped we got old. You know what I'm saying?
Not me.
When I was 21 and I didn't think I was going to live to be 25.
Really?
I didn't think I was going to be 25. All my friends, I had mad friends that got shot. I had mad friends that died in car accidents and thugging and bugging. We didn't think we was going to be here living how we was living, and you prepared for that. And I think, and that's what's sad, because people, when they try to understand the minds of these young black men, that's the mentality. I don't give a fuck. I drink and smoke every day because I'm celebrating.
Because that's a lot of, when I hear that, I think of pain. I think there's a lot of pain.
It is pain. When ain't nobody told you they love you today. When ain't nobody
or any day
you had something to eat.
Yeah.
When you got touched by that older cousin or that older sibling or that older relative and nobody believed you.
Right.
You feel me?
Or
when you went to school and you couldn't tell nobody, the teacher don't care, pops ain't there, mommy caught up in her new relationship with the new family, what you got left? You got that gangster over there that make a lot of money hustling in the hood, and he could use it as a little lieutenant.
This is something that I talked about in graduate school because, living on terrace was one of the, I was able to speak to a lot of different things. And when, you become a product of your environment. And if this is all you see, if you ain't seeing everybody getting up, going to work every day, what happened?
Bird crazy. Bird said hug a thug.
Oh.
Yeah, but we had a campaign. We said we wanted to hug a thug. A lot of these dudes need hugs.
Yeah, they need more than hugs. But I was saying you become a product of your environment, and if you don't see anybody where you from doing certain things, you're not going to know about that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we got to start changing. We got to start doing different things. We got to start loving ourselves more. I think that's where it begins. Self-love. Choose love for life.
Choose love for life, indeed. And that brings us to a perfect segue. Cherie, I thank you for coming through and having a very in-depth conversation with me. I know it went a little bit of everywhere, but it had to.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Yeah, but again, I do want to say, we definitely got to come together. Yeah, we're going to get the Hug a Thug program together, man. Father of the Village, Hug a Thug. Thanks, Bird, for that alley-oop. Point guard. And thank you. I'm going to slam that one. The Hug a Thug program. We need to incorporate that because hate is winning. Back in the day, Stevie Wonder said, love is in need of love today.
Yeah. Hate is winning, but hate's not going to get you far. Love is going to
definitely ain't. That's why we got to come back.
Far. Love will take you far.
Yeah. Radio Raheem said hate had love on the ropes. I think love that hit the floor for a second. It's got to take an 8 count and come back strong because right now they have programmed us to believe that everything that's wrong is right and everything that's right is corny. And a real street give about it. I don't know how what them girls be saying, but when all our chicks want to be a real live bitch, give a fuck about a nigga, and all our niggas want to not give a fuck about a bitch, how we gonna have a black family that's gonna sustain the stand?
Yeah, well, that's what that's what I was saying in the barbershop. I was like, we have to have black families because that's how we gonna create black wealth.
Well, we can't do that when we scheming and shamming on each other and we pimping our women and our women is pimping us. We ain't gonna get it that way.
No.
We gotta have a foundation, and what's the foundation?
Well, they don't understand that. They don't want that. I'm still trying to understand their mindsets. Their minds are fucked up. I'm sorry, excuse me, y'all. They got some fucked up minds.
It's going. Whatever it took to put that in that mind, we're gonna have to do what we have to do to get it out.
Just said unlearn and relearn. Yeah, unlearn. You have to unlearn the bullshit. What? I had to. And I share this with my clients. They are so they just can't believe it. Like when I'm in the therapy session, but I had to unlearn some certain things. One of the biggest things was just how I reacted to everything because I was the person that I would go crazy. I'm cursing you out. I'm be ready to fight, but I had to learn something different. And the people around me taught me because I was able to use them when when they would do something or say something crazy, and I would have to refrain from lashing out. And I was able to do it. And the more I practiced it, the better I became. So, people can say things to me, and it don't really bother me because I do understand where it's coming from, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yeah, but we got to do the best we can to bring everybody up to that frame of consciousness.
Well, that's my reason. That's my reason for saying it. So that because now, like I share with the kids in school, when they're always ready to, they always ready to fight somebody. I'm like, so you a puppet now, huh? They're like, what? I'm like, so. You a puppet. So you got this person over here, they controlling you. They can say something to you and then you just going crazy. And then they have to think about it, everybody don't get it, but I tell you, there are kids who call me after they've gotten in high school or even in college and will text me and say, Miss Deutsch, this such and such happened and I didn't respond, because it's not about you. You allowing somebody else to control you. I'm not allowing nobody else to control me to get to a point where I'm acting other than who I truly am. Nobody.
Well, before I let you go, is there anything you want to share with the people? How can we support you? I know you was ready to plug the book.
My book is up there.
The Butterfly Effect.
The Butterfly Effect. I can't reach it, and I don't want to stand up. Hold on.
But it's called the Butterfly. The Butterfly. We're going on the road.
I'm getting up.
We're going on the road. The Butterfly Effect.
Her return to love, because it talks about how all the things that I had to endure. Oh shoot, I'm gonna drop my.
Her return to love. You also got the wellness boxes. You
Yeah,
know.
I have wellness boxes. I have a store called by Nirvana Cherie.
I don't
And
know if you got some spots, but if people need therapy, do you got some spots? Do you got some people?
depends on what insurance you have. If you have Emblem Health, do not call me.
Get your insurance game together, man.
Okay, let me see. I accept Fidelis, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna. That's all I can think of right now.
So no Obamacare, no
Well, Fidelis and Affinity Molina is Molina now. That's the
no
Obamacare.
Medicare.
I accept Medicare.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
also, I'm having an event next Tuesday.
Okay.
For the love of you, it wasn't that before, and it's a speed dating event. I need men. Come on, like
that
you
should
in the
be
New York area.
Men,
Yeah,
that's saying you got some women that's down for it, but
I got lots of women, and I also.
You know why? Because a lot of men that probably would go to something like that are probably faithful men that are just staying home with their women.
Well, I'm not. I don't want no. I want a single man to come.
I don't think there's many left.
No, there's a lot of single men. They just don't want to come.
I don't think there's many left. Everybody's pretty much, cordoned off.
Even if they're not married, or if they are single, then they just want to mess with a bunch of women, so they don't want to come to something like that.
So what's the particulars on it? Where's it going down?
It's at Backstage in Woodmere. It's a free event. I'm gonna have
Everybody don't know where Woodmere is.
I don't know where that is. Where I'm supposed to tell y'all, it's Woodmere. It's in the
Long Island, New York. If you're in the New York area and you frequent Long Island, go to Woodmere.
No,
check out
y'all can DM me. You can DM me at Choose Up for Life. If you're a man, if you're a woman, do not DM me.
If you're a woman, what if she's a woman looking for a man and she just wants to be a part of the thing?
You can come. I'm being facetious because I have so many women coming.
No doubt.
You can DM me if you want to come.
Wind Warrior said he was gonna come, but the one he can't get. I don't know what's going on, God.
I'm so sorry. But
Woodmere is near Queens. Is that like 5 towns over that way?
5 towns there near Far Rockaway, yeah.
All right.
And also, I have for the women, I'm doing a wellness retreat. I have 2 spots open, I think, because I think I have a young lady who may not be able to go, but I have 2 spots open for this wellness retreat in Dominican Republic. And I think that's all I really have to say. Choose love for life.
Choose love for life.
I'm telling y'all. No, one more thing. I'm telling y'all, when you change your mind, you change and you love yourself more and you love others, your whole life is gonna change. I know a lot of people walking around secretly thinking about killing themselves.
Mm.
I'm going to the extreme, but I know a lot of people that are depressed, sad, feel hopeless, and you got to change you. You can't change nothing else around you. You can't hope that you get $1 million. You can't, when I get my new car. No, you got to change. It starts within. That's what has to change. Then your life will change. All right,
man.
Chucky.
You put a period on it. Yo, salute to everybody on the check-in. I had a really dope time talking with you. Hopefully Instagram will play nice and we can put this on the playback. I'll definitely try to chop it up and throw it up on the YouTube channel. It's Nat Burns. This has been the God Hour Live, and we'll see you next time. I'll be here next week. I got a dope author coming through next week. Author week. This is author week. I got author Cherie Dodge. I'm gonna have an author next week and an author the week after that. Yeah, we gonna have the people up here this month who document the history. This is real Black history. The Butterfly Effect. Her Return to Love. Go get that. Amazon, all of that. You can get it. Get your copy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chucky.
No problem.
Talk to you later. All right. Peace.
Already. Peace.